The idea for this ridiculous role reversal experiment started after my wife spent an entire weekend binge listening to a feminist podcast. She burst into the garage where I was fixing the lawn mower, a task she'd been nagging me about for weeks, and declared we needed to recalibrate our relationship dynamics. Looked up from the disassembled carburetor, my hands covered in grease after 3 hours of work. "What are you talking about?" I asked. "I've been thinking about how unfair our division of labor is," she said, standing there in a pristine yoga outfit while I was covered in oil and sweat. "I propose we switch roles completely for 7 days. I'll do everything you do, and you'll do everything I do." The irony wasn't lost on me. Here I was, spending my Saturday fixing something that benefits our whole household, while she'd been relaxing and getting enlightened by strangers on the internet. "Everything I do?" I asked, wiping my hands on a rag. "You mean my 60-hour work week managing a construction crew, the yard work, home repairs, car maintenance, bill payments, retirement planning?" I listed. She rolled her eyes. "You make it sound so dramatic. Yes, all of it. And you'll handle my responsibilities, cooking, some cleaning, organizing our social calendar?" I almost laughed. For years, I'd shouldered the financial burden, worked overtime to provide the lifestyle she enjoyed, and still handled most of the physically demanding household tasks. She worked part-time at a boutique, spent liberally, and considered loading the dishwasher a major accomplishment. Instead of arguing, a different strategy formed in my mind. "You know what? Let's do it. 7 full days of role reversal starting tomorrow. No complaints. No backing out." Her eyes widened. She expected resistance. "Really? You're on board just like that?" she asked. "Absolutely," I replied. "But there's one condition. We commit to the full 7 days no matter what. We need to truly experience each other's responsibilities to make this meaningful." She eagerly agreed, unaware of what she'd signed up for. That night, I prepared everything she would need to step into my world. My work schedule, contact info for my crew foreman, upcoming project deadlines, and a list of maintenance issues around the house. Over dinner, I outlined my daily routine, including a 5 a.m. wake-up to review project plans before arriving on site by 6:30. I explained the quarterly tax payment due that week and the negotiations scheduled with a difficult supplier. Her smug certainty began to wobble as I detailed the week ahead. She gave nervous glances at the calendar I'd prepared. "Don't worry," I said with a knowing smile. "I'm sure you'll handle it as easily as I do every day." The alarm would ring in less than 6 hours. Day 1 of her enlightenment was about to begin. The alarm blared at 5 a.m. I was already awake from years of early rising. She fumbled to silence her phone and groaned into the pillow. "Rise and shine," I said, stretching leisurely. "Big day ahead for the new construction manager." She mumbled something unintelligible and stumbled to the bathroom. 20 minutes later, she emerged looking completely unprepared for a construction site. Designer jeans and a blouse that probably cost more than my work boots. "You might want to reconsider your outfit," I suggested. "The concrete pour scheduled today isn't exactly fashion-friendly." After another wardrobe scramble, she finally left in some of my old work clothes, looking out of her element. I dozed another hour, savoring the unusual quiet, then got up at her usual wake time. I made myself a proper breakfast, something I rarely have time for, and began her daily routines. By 9:30 a.m., I'd done what she would normally call a full day's work: dishes, laundry, cleaning the kitchen and living room. With hours to spare, I tackled tasks she'd been putting off for months: organizing the pantry, fixing a squeaky closet door, replacing burned-out light fixtures. Around noon, my phone rang. It was my assistant foreman. "Hey, boss, is your wife serious about this role swap? She's been sitting in your truck for the past hour making calls after she tried to explain the foundation inspection to the city inspector." I suppressed a laugh. "Tell her to put you in charge of the inspection and just observe," I said. Shortly after, she called, voice tight with stress. "These people don't listen to anything I say. The inspector asks technical questions I can't answer, and your crew keeps checking with each other instead of following my instructions." "Welcome to my Monday," I replied calmly. "Remember when you said anyone could do what I do with minimal training? Maybe reconsider that position," she snapped. "This isn't fair. You've been doing this job for years. Are you calling to quit our experiment on day one? I asked. Her pride wouldn't let her concede. No, she finally answered. I made a commitment. Good, I said. The concrete delivery is at 2 p.m. Make sure the forms are properly braced before they pour. That evening she returned home exhausted, clothes stained with concrete, hair disheveled, and the expression of someone who'd been worn down. Dinner's ready, I called from the kitchen. I'd prepared a complex meal, slow-cooked entree, fresh sourdough bread, and a side salad. She stared at the spotless kitchen and the gourmet spread. How did you have time for all this? She asked. Oh, I finished your daily tasks by mid-morning, I said. So I had time to deep clean, fix a few things, organize tax documents, and make dinner from scratch. She collapsed into a chair and poured a long drink straight from the bottle. After a moment, she explained. One client nearly pulled a contract because she couldn't answer basic questions about timelines. The foreman had to step in. Payroll needed approvals she couldn't make. Sounds like a typical Monday for me, I replied. Except I usually come home to a sandwich and complaints about how you didn't have time to clean. She looked around, a crack finally forming in her certainty. Tomorrow will be better, she tried to say. We both knew it wouldn't be. Day 2 started with the alarm again at 5 a.m. She was stiffer and sorer from the previous day. There's ibuprofen in my drawer, I offered. You'll need it. The foundation inspection is today. Her confidence drained as she checked her phone. Why are there 27 new emails from clients and suppliers since midnight? She asked. She answered a 5:15 a.m. call from Big Mike, the excavation contractor, and returned pale and shaken. There's a permit problem. He's asking for decisions I don't know how to make. You read the folder I gave you, remember? I asked. That's this week's projects. I memorize those details every weekend, so I'm prepared for exactly these situations. Her face registered panic as she realized how much prep I do. By noon, I'd cleaned the house, prepared dinner in a slow cooker, and repainted the guest bathroom. At 1 o'clock, the phone erupted. Emergency at the Richardson project. The inspector failed the foundation because of rebar spacing. Concrete trucks are already here. Her voice cracked over the noise. Put my foreman on the phone, I said calmly. After a short technical discussion, I guided them through a solution that satisfied code without scrapping the pour. That evening, she came home hollow and exhausted. I can't do 5 more days of this, she whispered. Please, I'm begging you. Let's end the experiment now. I sat with her. Day 2 was always going to be the hardest, I said. But ending now means you'll never fully understand what I handle. Tears in her eyes, she admitted. I understand enough. Your job is impossible. I offered a compromise. You don't have to go back to the construction site. But there are other parts of my responsibilities you haven't experienced. We continue the experiment, but with modifications. She agreed, no more construction site, and I allowed myself a small, satisfied smile. The visible part of my job had bruised her, but the invisible load remained. I started the next day by handing her a leather portfolio. Your agenda for today, I said. Inside were spreadsheets, statements, and a long list of decisions, reconciling accounts, transferring funds for a $4,700 property tax payment due tomorrow, and calls about a noisy water heater. Her coffee stayed untouched as she flipped through investment statements and retirement planning notes. You've been doing all this? She asked, incredulous. When? How? I told her nights, weekends, lunch breaks. Someone has to manage our financial future. There were also unpaid medical bills. From her mother's hospital stay, roughly $14,000, and an appeal. Hearing at 2 p.m., her shock was genuine. Why didn't you tell me? She asked. I tried 3 times, I said. Each time you were too stressed to discuss it and told me to handle it. The day was a crash course. Wires, bank confirmations, contractor deposits, negotiations, and an insurance appeal that required knowledge of medical billing codes. By 4 o'clock, our insurance agent arrived, discussed liability limits and premiums, and asked for decisions she couldn't confidently make. She pushed the portfolio away like it was radioactive. How do you keep track of all this? She asked. It's endless. It is, I replied. Every decision feels like it could be costly. For the first time, she saw the mental load I carried. The invisible, constant work that keeps a household from falling apart. That night she reached for my hand and said, "I had no idea. We were only halfway through the experiment." Tomorrow would tackle social obligations, an area where she'd always believed she carried the lion's share of the emotional labor. By the next evening, she was practicing conversation starters and reviewing notes frantically for a dinner with my colleagues. She froze when the regional director brought up a controversial policy. Her response satisfied no one. I watched the subtle disappointment register on the director's face. When our guest left, she was emotionally spent. "I always thought you were just socializing," she said. "But you were managing personalities, protecting careers, and advancing relationships." She finally understood the difference between visible hosting tasks and the high-stakes diplomacy I navigated at every event. On the 6th day, I revealed something deeper, the long-term plan I'd been building. She looked through the 5-year career roadmap I'd drawn up, the investment projections, and the property research. "Why haven't I seen this before?" she asked. "I tried," I said. "You were never ready to talk about work." For the first time, she saw that every late night and extra hour had a purpose, a future I was building for both of us. That night, we talked, really talked, about our goals and priorities. It wasn't about who worked harder, but how we could work together. By the final day, the combativeness was gone. We sat together and talked about the future, real partnership, not competition. We agreed to restructure responsibilities, share decisions, and finally treat each other like equals. Sometimes the most effective way to change a relationship isn't through conflict, but through revelation. Over 7 days, we both learned that the visible tasks are only part of the picture. The unseen work, the planning, the anticipation, the decisions, matters just as much. If you made it this far, consider subscribing. It helps out more than you think and keeps you in the loop for the next story. See you in the next one.